Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of the Back to the TARDIS podcast, the podcast where we discuss every single episode of the 2005 revival of BBC's Doctor Who. I'm Jeff.
I'm Skylar.
I was about to sneeze and then it went away. It's the return of your boy, fucking the one and only Big Fat Penis 69.
Nice.
Back!
Nice.
We're back! And today we are discussing 42 by a certain extremely underwhelming future showrunner by the name of Chris Chibnall. This was Chibnall's first writing credit for the show, although he'd done stuff on Torchwood already. And I think I'm still probably going to be the most muted, but I speak for us all for saying that it was way, way better than we thought it was going to be.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I remembered it being good, but I didn't.
I remembered it being okay, and I had a feeling it was still probably going to be okay. And my general my general thoughts is just an upgrade from this is okay to okay, this is actually kind of solid.
It's fucking good, TBH. As I said, in the group chat, where is this Chris Chibnall now? Like, damn, what happened to this dude?
I'm not even sure this either this Chris Chibnall didn't exist and was just because he was working under other showrunners and script editors who changed shit, or he's decided to become as boring white neoliberal as possible to try and mass market Doctor Who. And I can't decide which alternative I hate more.
We should throw up a Twitter poll.
Maybe.
But yeah, it was I don't know. It's a type of voice I'm not used to seeing from Chibnall. I felt more tense during this than any other thing that he's penned in his era, at least. So that was a nice surprise. It's not god tier, but I think it's a underappreciated gem in some circles. I don't hear it talked about a lot, but it's I don't know, a lot of stuff goes on in it, and the only thing I can really say that I would think for certain would be added by RTD would be the calls with the mom that add into the Saxon plot. I wouldn't be surprised if RTD specifically took those sections, but other than that, who's to say?
We start off with the Doctor giving Martha the phone plan upgrade that he gave to Rose, because of course, frequent flyer, gotta go through the rounds with everyone. They find a distress sequel. Oh God, it's a sequel to the Timeless Children. I am in distress.
Take a drink. How many Timeless Children jokes? Take a drink.
Sorry, distress signal. And they step out on this spaceship, and it's toasty in there.
It's getting hot in here, so take off our clothes.
Okay.
We don't want to get copy wronged. I noticed Martha immediately take off her jacket, which was okay, this episode already gets a few points.
Damn. It really throws you right into it. Literally, from the moment they step off the ship until 40 minutes later, the episode just goes. It does not rest. And honestly, I really like that. It just is fast constantly.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. Uh, so there's there the main sort of gimmick of the episode is explained, which is this ship is about to crash into the sun in 42 minutes. Here's my one problem with this gimmick. It doesn't actually fucking work. It doesn't line up. Which, okay, sure, it doesn't need to, but, like, if you're going to go as far as be like, yeah, we were inspired by 42 and tried to do this real-time thing, then, like, actually commit. Otherwise, don't bother. Just make it a fast-paced episode.
I mean, I don't know what the homage is to, so frankly, I don't personally care. I like the way it worked out.
Yeah, no, like... I don't think the pacing of this episode is particularly a problem. I just feel like marketing and in general, it's referred to as sort of being like real time, and it's really not. It's not at all.
It's not, but personally, I don't care.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just that don't advertise it like it is if it isn't.
It's advertising doing its usual fuckery, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, the grungy kind of aesthetic of this is pretty neat. It's probably, like, weirdly enough, I imagine it probably wasn't too expensive to do, but like, the actual set, but it looks like it's definitely one of the more quality sets.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking that as I was watching it, just like, the engineering stuff of it all looks very good. I don't know. I mean, again, you made the comparison to the Satan Pit, and it's kind of like that, except
yeah,
crossed with, I'd say, Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
Almost like.
No, this episode is definitely discount Satan Pit, and to be fair, the Satan Pit is good, like really good. So discount Satan Pit is still good, but it's discount Satan Pit.
Personally, I'm not sure if it's quite as good as Satan Pit, but like for me, it does enough differently that for me it stands on its own. I can obviously see the points where it's drawing from Satan Pit. Obviously, like you can't watch the episode and be like, yeah, okay, this wasn't inspired by Satan Pit at all.
Yeah,
because it definitely does draw a lot of those elements and like the plot setup, and like the twists and turns of the story and the way it plays out. But like for me, it does enough uniquely that I can be like, yeah, this is its own episode and I like it for its own reasons.
Okay. Maybe hot take, but I think one thing this episode does have over Satan Pit is that kind of okay, so Martha and the Doctor, this is like their first adventure together as like official, Doctor companion relationship, and I feel the relationship grow closer and have it tested more and come through like higher on top than I feel like Rose and Ten were. And maybe that's just an issue with Rose and Ten as a dynamic, not necessarily
I mean, kind of, it's also just plot. Because Martha has Martha has better chemistry with Ten than Rose ever did,
Yeah, so like I don't know, maybe that's a low bar to clear, but I felt like for what it was doing, like I don't know. I didn't remember this episode very well, but I'm glad, revisiting it now. I'm just like, okay, this is where Martha and the Doctor kind of become their own thing. And even though there is some sort of like Rose callbacks where it's just like, I'm not losing her, i.e. I'm not losing another one, it was still nice to see that like they've gotten to that companion Doctor point where he's not being an ass or like obtuse in some way, for the most part. So
yeah, I get you.
I like that.
Also, just pointing out that Martha got a key to the TARDIS later, and Rose never got that. So
no, yes, she did. Yes, she did.
She did?
She gets it in Aliens of London.
Alright, I'm just totally misremembering that.
And I know that because I literally watched that episode, like, last week. So I can say for certain.
All right, I believe you.
Yeah, I will say the monster part of this episode is actually pretty solid and a better and more memorable monster than literally fucking anything Chris Chibnall came up with in the entirety of 2 seasons of Doctor Who. Like, what the hell? Literally, like,
Did he write Villa of Diodati?
Teeth? No, he did not.
Okay, because I was gonna say that's the like closest to like tense atmospheric that his era got, like in comparison to
he
this.
didn't write
But
that.
never mind.
Yeah, let's see. There's Teeth Boy, who is memorable for all the wrong reasons. Mainly, he sucks. What the fuck even happened in? What the fuck even happened in the Ghost Monument? I watched that episode recently too, and I can't remember what the fuck happened.
There's a contest to get the TARDIS, which happens to be the thing.
Okay, but like, there's no like, okay, yeah, there's no real monsters in that, but that's fine. That's not a problem. Just, Rosa, no. Giant spiders, which he can't make. That's such like a cliche thing that even if he did make that scary, it wouldn't be on his merits. It would be entirely because it's giant spiders. The fucking gremlin thingy, which was a good idea and like probably the only decent part of that episode. Let's see, what else did he specifically write? Tooth Boy again. Daleks don't count because A, I barely remember Resolution, and B, he didn't do that. Glowy Boys, who got hijacked by the Master showing up and thus were completely utterly forgettable.
If we count Dewan's Master, I'd say that's probably his best in his era.
That doesn't count. And that's also only because Dewan is pretty good. Like, let me be abundantly clear. I don't like the way his incarnation of the Master is written. It is entirely the actor that sells it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the only reason I don't hate it.
Yeah.
If it
Fair.
was anyone else, I'd be like, no, this is just Sim again. And not as good.
Point being, he starts on a high note and arguably, and in Jeff's case, definitively, never reaches it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, his first appearance is, like, really solid, but again, haven't seen the finale, so don't know how he ends up, but, like...
The reason why the finale is bad mainly isn't him. It's other stupid things.
Yeah, I figured.
He's pretty consistent.
Oh, speaking of Chibnall era and Rosa, the doctor on the ship, not the doctor, but the medical person on the ship who kind of gets us into the monster plot and introduces all of that, is played by the same actress who goes on to act as Rosa Parks in Rosa. So that's a big gap of time, but it's good to see her. Good to see, you know, tertiary actors being brought to do more, because she's the first person killed, and I don't need to tell y'all about the problem of fiction killing.
You know, it's a shame she was horribly mishandled in both the episodes that she's in.
Yeah.
Damn.
Monster kills black
going out
woman
there and
first.
saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I will say the monster of the crew members getting possessed. I will say, even though I feel like this episode is bootleg Satan Pit, I feel like the monster stuff itself is different enough in a good way. It's low budget and it works. Like, yeah, it was actually, like, this actually is a pretty, considering how, like, obnoxiously, boringly tame his era is, this episode's kind of, like, higher up than most on the oh fuck scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, this monster, or I can't even really
Yeah,
call
no,
it a monster
it's
much.
brutal.
It has presence,
Yeah.
like you don't feel like it's a jobber. Like that shit's gonna fuck you up.
Yeah, no, totally. Um,
How do we feel about the human side characters on the ship? Because I like
I
three of
forgot
them,
all of.
but
I didn't care about any of them who weren't the captain, and I guess maybe that one person who was in the escape pod with Martha. Chibnall,
Yeah,
starting pretty consistent with his side characters in that they are fucking trash.
yeah. That's my one weakness with the episode is that the side characters are just not there.
Yeah, the they're yeah. Which, to be fair, I I don't necessarily mind that there's only uh one fucking good character that's the good side character, because in the space of the plot there only needs to be one. But we're also, thankfully we're not to the point where he's going to be here's 15 side characters, please care about them all while I underwrite all of them and the main cast simultaneously.
yeah, I will say one thing that got me to laugh, kind of morbidly, was that one girl who's just like, "Oh, my boss, fetch this, get the coffee, kill me,"
That
slams
was
the thing.
fucking I did.
It's
that
so
was
dumb,
stupid.
but
I was
I
just
love
like,
it.
okay.
I laughed at that. I laughed at that. I am
Also,
a
I'd just
sucker.
like to point out that in hindsight, the first two people killed off in this episode are a person of color and someone who's lower class.
Oh, I noticed. I know. Yeet.
Just putting it out there.
Also, I agree.
Probably not intentional, but still.
I would actually say the person who Martha gets trapped with is probably my personal favorite side character. The captain definitely has the most depth, but the scene where she first confronts Corwin and she's breaking down, but all she is doing is whispering, I don't know. It just felt a little flat to me, but she's definitely, the actress definitely puts her all in, and the way she goes out is kind of cliche as fuck, but also kind of badass.
Yeah. No, and yeah. Plus there is definitely some idiot ball moments where she's freaking out and is like, "No, don't freeze Corwin and kill him," and I'm like, dude, we do not have the time for this.
Yeah, when side character C has more sense than you, mildly fleshed out character B, we have an issue.
Sit the fuck down. Also, then there's the pub trivia door things, which, again, I still don't really entirely get, why the fuck do even, why? This seems like a hazard if you're ever in a situation like this, not to have some sort of super easy override of just open the fucking doors, we're going to die.
I well, honestly, I get the vibes that they're not too much on the they're not too much on the legal side of things. Honestly,
Yeah.
the impression I get is just that this ship is just totally cobbled together
Yeah.
illegally and
Yeah, that's
does not
fair.
have safety mechanisms.
Um,
It's oh yeah, we'll think up all the password questions while we're drunk, and that was 9 tours, which I'm pretty sure would equal out to 9 years ago. So it's
Yeah.
they're
I
not
don't
the smartest
fucking remember
bunch.
shit from 9 years ago.
I'm trying to think if I remember. I mean, I remember Doctor Who from 9 years ago.
Yeah, that's about it. That's about it,
Hey.
and I've watched that a bunch of times.
Yeah, I don't know. As plot contrivances go, this is pretty good. I mean, it keeps the tension up. If it was just like, oh, we have to enter in a complicated sequence of numbers. I did like that the Doctor was kind of involved for the first two, and then they kind of like completely separate until they come back together again.
Yeah.
Which is nice. It's nice plot structure, but yeah, I kind of wish there was more integration with that. But the Doctor be busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Doctor gets a fucking workout in this episode. He's
this episode like actually seriously feels like actual stakes for the Doctor way more than a significant chunk of things.
Yeah, like most episodes, it's like, all right, but we just gotta get back to the TARDIS and then we're safe. But like this episode, it very cleanly sets up a way that they can't just blast off in the TARDIS whenever they want to.
Yeah.
And they have to go through the whole thing. And then Martha almost gets fucking murked, like straight up. Like...
Yeah, no, I will say, this would have so much more weight if we were at like a finale or like the show was actually willing to take the risk. Because the entire time, like even when I was a kid, I was just like, do it, bitch, you won't.
I mean, yeah, but like you can know a character is gonna survive and still be like stressy about it, you know? Like
yeah, it's fair. I'm just thinking about how like any time the show does that is immediately invalidated by the time the show actually did that in World Enough in Time. Where like, yes, Bill technically fucking dies, and like they didn't build up to it at all. It just happened.
Yeah.
Or in a more obscure reference, in one of my personal favorites, major spoiler warning, fucking one of my personal favorites, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, where one of the main characters...
Oh boy, Avery's going to weeb on us.
Again, this is the biggest spoiler, so don't listen if you actually care. Gets fucking murked literally 3/4 into the show. He just dies. Like, he just gets fucking assassinated. And it's like, It doesn't get set up at all. He just goes out and fucking dies.
Yeah. It's like, this is a complete side note, but like, I genuinely feel like the fact that the BBC, like, hypes up, like, all these, like, hypes up, like, companion departures or slash arrivals and, like, regeneration episodes as much as they do, because it's honestly, like, to the detriment, because they're like, oh, we have to hype this up because for this, like, a rating stunt, when it would be so much cooler if they could just randomly have the Doctor just regenerate just halfway through the season, like, out of nowhere.
To be fair, that would definitely get out because, people would see the cast and stuff.
No, I understand that, but, like, to be fair, considering the amount of, like, solid work that they did to make there be no leaks this last season, like, from what I understand, nobody figured out that was the Master, and he showed up multiple times throughout that season, twice in full costume.
Yeah, I was thinking at the end of the episode, it's just like, what? I want to visit the parallel universe where, like, we get Matt Smith, like, 3 years early, I think? So
1.5, I think. But
oh yeah,
like,
1.5.
What if, like, he actually died in Stolen Earth? What if, like, the Lie of the Land wasn't a stupid bullshit fucking fake out to try and pad the episode in a trilogy that was death spiraling? Because it was rushed.
Is that one 12?
Yes.
Was the whole fake thing? Yeah, I fucking hated that.
Yes, it was. Anyways, back to the actual episode. The greatest line. He can't vaporize people. He's human. And then immediately followed by his bioscan results, and then they're like, the test results are wrong, and I'm like, bitch.
We got a
You
fake
can't
newser
do that.
over here.
That's illegal.
Like, okay, on the one hand, I do kind of understand that as a reasonable human response, but on the other hand, it's one of those things that does not read as a reasonable human response and just reads as...
Yeah, the actress doesn't really play... It reads as more as, like, obstinate in denial, whereas it should read as in, like, shock. But
yeah,
it doesn't. She doesn't play it like that, so it just comes off as like, "Shut the fuck up." But yeah,
yeah. Let's see. So yeah, Martha and the person who she's with, who I don't even remember the fucking name, get locked in a escape pod and menaced by one of the Bernie. Oh my god! Oh, I just thought of this when they. Okay, we're skipping ahead slightly. When they fucking show the shot of, like, the doctor and, like, his eyes, because he's got, like, the sun in him, and they show, like, the full-on shot of his eyes for, like, the first time in the whole episode, I just couldn't stop thinking of those, like, laser eye lens flare memes. I'm like, man, this is just a, like, higher budget version of, like, those shitty memes I made in GIMP.
God.
Because really, that's basically what it is.
I mean, you're not wrong. Oh, God, that's a cursed thought.
So yeah, Martha and the guy get, fucking, jettisoned, into the sun, and as I said, this is the moment where I'm just watching bitch do it you won't.
I mean, I knew they were going to survive, but I was still like, ooh, how's it gonna happen? Ooh.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where you're just like, yeah, they're gonna get out of this, but, like, I kind of have no idea why or how.
Yeah.
The phone calls are a nice touch, though, and it's, like, one of the slower moments in the episode. Like, one of the rare slow ones, but the characters take the time, and, as I said, this is probably why Riley, the guy, is, like, my favorite side character in this episode. Kind of, like, randomly kisses Martha on the forehead when she's, like, crying, and I was just like, okay, man, I don't know if that was warranted.
Just chill, bro, chill.
But, you know,
he's a good... Stop.
He's a good lad. I was just like, okay, this is fiction. I'll let that slide. Don't do that, though.
Yeah, don't do that. So yeah, the doctor opens the airlock to, I guess, somehow reverse the thing that jettisoned the escape pod. I'm not sure how or why that works, but whatever. Sure.
It was like a magnet to bring it back.
Right, but why would they have that?
I'm assuming for situations like that where it's accidentally jettisoned.
I guess.
I will say the spacesuit he wears is not on par with the one he gets in the Impossible
Planet
it's
not
two-parter.
Yeah, it's not the Sanctuary Base 6 one.
Yeah, evidenced by the fact that basically every time he needs to use that.
Yeah, they've just kept it in
does.
storage. I'm pretty sure. I think they pulled it out in series 11 or 12 too.
I mean, yeah, they keep using it. The orange one. Yeah.
They've just held on to it. It's the
What?
same fucking prop.
One of the few callbacks that I won't give Chibnall shit for. I was just like, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, he pulls Martha back in, but he's. I will say this is one of the best moments in the entire fucking thing, where he looks at the sun and just starts being like, "Oh God, it's alive." That's like it's very like classic like B movie shit, but I love it. It's great.
It's all. I mean, you sort of pointed out how this like draws from the Impossible Planet, but that thing or that concept, it gets recycled with Rings of Akatan. I forget
Yeah,
how it's pronounced.
Akaten,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's a cool concept, especially here. Like, ooh, they're cheap people and they do cheap things, and because of that, they do a consumerism and hurt the
You should never
wildlife.
do a consumerism.
Yeah. So there's a bit of a based RTD shining through Chibnall's
Yeah.
neoliberalism.
10,
Um.
10 shows a bit of his 9 when he's just like, you
Yeah.
humans. And I was just like, well, shit.
Well, no,
okay.
because he's partially being sunned at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do think like like the point. I definitely will say like the fact that the sun actually manages to get into the Doctor's head is actually a pretty neat thing that doesn't happen that often. Like normally it's a companion and not the Doctor, and I think the fact that they did go that extra step is pretty neat.
Yeah, again, just because I have to shit on Rose every episode. Like, imagine if imagine if Rose had to deal with the Doctor getting possessed. She'd just be like,
I know you're
"Oh,
still in there.
Doctor, oh, don't you know it's me? Oh." It would somehow work because
Sure, why not?
Rose.
Um,
Yeah. I do appreciate like Martha's much more level-headedness and like
yeah,
actually being able to do things.
yep.
And she like fucking
So
snaps at the
yeah,
captain.
they realize that. I will say this backstory is pretty sick and also like kind of metal as fuck too, where they like this sun was like a living thing and then they mined it, not knowing, and now it's like angry and wants its shit back. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
It's a really cool idea.
it's definitely a good reveal for sure.
Um. Let's see here. So yeah, the captain vents out the airlock in a thing that's just like, oh, okay. I mean, it was done better in Midnight, but sure. In general, Midnight's a better episode, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the resolution is pretty good. It arrives pretty naturally and just like, yeah, I was satisfied with the way this episode plays out. I think it's pretty well paced, and I think the way the plot progresses over the course of the episode is pretty good. Yeah.
Um. So yeah, and then there's the Mr. Saxon tag at the end. Um. Anything you guys want to say before we move on to ratings? Just because I'm obviously I'm clearly like I liked it, but I'm clearly like not as like enamored and don't necessarily have as much to say. So I'll open the floor.
Nah, I got nothing else.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, as I said, I expected to be kind of meh lukewarm on this episode, the same way that I'm meh lukewarm on a lot of Chris Chibnall's later works, but no, I have to say it is pretty solid. As I said earlier, I can't tell if he was just better when he had someone else, like, looking over his scripts, or if he just dumbed down the show and made it like super pandery to both fans and like general audiences to try and boost ratings, and I can't figure out what's worse. But this episode is pretty solid, not necessarily good enough to be like, oh yeah, this person should be the next fucking showrunner, but you know, it's good. I think it's a solid 8.
To be fair, he wasn't the next showrunner.
Well, okay, yeah, but still, my point is, if you look at like what he'd written, it's like really like, why are you picking this person? It's like I'm pretty sure it's just because Broadchurch got good reviews and he was on the RTD writing team.
Yeah, poggers. So I like this episode a lot. I would probably say it doesn't quite hit the great category, but I'd say it's like really good. It's one that's you don't often think about in series 3.
It's fine.
Because we have like
It
family
works.
of blood. Yeah, it's definitely it's very competent. And I say that as someone who really likes it. The characterization is all right on several of the side characters. 10 has some good stuff to do. Martha finally is like, I mean, she was a companion, but now it's like official, so that's nice. Stuff with the mom is cool. I don't know. It feels like we're getting into where like everything starts ramping up. We see more of the Saxon stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty enjoyable. Wow, I can words. Yeah, 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of noticed that the last few episodes that we thought were, or like that we either didn't know much about or we thought weren't going to be that good, and like they've all been consistently outperforming our expectations. This is definitely a case of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it's a very well put together episode. I think that the general pacing of it is just not something you get often in a Doctor Who episode, and I think it works really well here. I
Mm-hmm.
was definitely very engaged and very like amped up the whole time I was watching the episode. It was just a very, very fun watch, and so some of the side characters aren't as good, but honestly, in the moment, it doesn't matter that much, just because
Yeah,
the way
that's
the
fair.
plot progresses, them being well put together isn't that necessary. So at the end of the day, it's very much a plot driven and pacing and directing driven episode, not as much a character driven episode. And so I think it's okay that the side characters like aren't that great this episode. I think they're fine enough that they accomplish what they need to in the episode. Um, and yeah, I think it's just generally a very well put together episode, and I'd say it's 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10, yeah.
Fair enough. So next week, I'm really excited because we're going to be talking about one of my favorite episodes, Human Nature and the Family of Blood by Paul Cornell. And because of that, I realized I'm going to have to read the book again because that was adapted from a book for 7, which I've read, and I'm probably going to read again to kind of compare and contrast between the episode. But yeah, I'm definitely excited for that. Yeah. Until then, we'll move on to our next segment. So this week we are discussing Out of Time by Catherine Tregenna. It is episode 10 of series 1 of Torchwood. And this week we mainly have a content warning for sad shit, depression, and suicide. Yeah, this I posted in Torchwood chat that this is the second week in a row that the show nearly made me cry, and I really like this episode, but it was hard to get through at some point at some parts.
Hard to get through in like hard to watch, or it's a not good way.
No, in a hard to watch way. I fucking love
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
episode.
Yeah, I get you. I get you. It's definitely, ooh, it puts you
Yeah.
through the ringer.
Yeah. I think this is another case of like the show starting to hit its stride once it realizes, hey, we can take our more mature than Doctor Who status and use it to just write interesting, compelling sci-fi stories without having to shove in violence and grimdark edginess and sex, or like gratuitous unnecessary sex. Like there's no
Yeah.
real violence in this episode because there doesn't need to be, and the sex in this episode makes sense in a way that doesn't feel gratuitous.
Yeah, it felt.
Yeah. I think it's a very good sci-fi story that doesn't involve any like alien monsters or enemies or anything. It's just like, yeah, this is just kind of a tragedy and it
Yeah.
sucks.
And on the one hand, I can kind of maybe see where people are coming from in the sense that, like, this is yet another episode where basically, like, a chunk of the cast gets sidelined. But at the same time, it's good Jack moments. It gives Owen the first point of character development that makes me not actually hate him. Like, this is the most I've not hated Owen the entire season.
Yeah.
Progress.
Um, and yeah, I think like there's a lot of like time travel stories like this, but I just think something about how it approaches time and human emotion and like all the themes like sexuality and the way the world has changed and all of that just all comes together to just make this super emotional episode.
And I also think the three characters that show up, the three different ways they respond to the situation are
Yeah,
just very interesting.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a point that I think a lot of people who try to be like tell like grim, dark, mature storytelling miss is that like if you write the scenario well and you take the characters and you really explore that naturally, the darkness and the maturity is going to come from that. You don't need to do anything like
Yeah,
extra, no bells and whistles. There is suicide. There is, you could argue higher than average sex for
yeah.
some people,
Oh,
but it's
yeah,
like
way
it
higher,
makes sense.
way higher than average.
Yeah,
And it's the way that it's a story that prominently has a suicide in the climax of the episode is it's handled in a way that's not like gratuitous or exploitative.
Yeah, it's just very somber.
Yeah.
Like that's how I put it. And I
And
genuinely
I really
appreciate.
like how it ties into sort of Jack's character because
Oh
obviously
yeah,
as we
absolutely.
know he's very guarded in Torchwood.
Yeah, and I genuinely appreciate that the show didn't like it easily could have gotten into just like being like really preachy about like not doing that, but it didn't, and I honestly like really appreciate that. It just like
Yeah.
it just took it as is, and like I think Jack was definitely the right person to handle that.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's
Um,
the only person that could have. Just him, the fact that he stays with him in the car is just ugh.
yeah, that's oh God, yeah.
Um, yeah, and I also think that surprisingly enough, outside of like series 2 Gwen and Reese, the relationship between Owen and Diane, which I guess not really a spoiler, but is only really in this episode, though the aftershocks of it definitely carry throughout the rest of series 1. The relationship itself is only in this episode. It is one of the more positive portrayals of it, and something that I think really works.
Yeah, it's again that strength of Torchwood that Doctor Who doesn't always have, since they're always visiting different locations, and you don't have that kind of sustained. Usually, you can't count on a companion staying for more than one season. Here, you have a established setting. You have established characters that aren't going anywhere, like different, and they're not going in and out. So you can really do a lot more with the main cast. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, I will say definitely the weakest link I think is the other girl who. It's sad to say that the weakest link is the girl that gets like the happy ending, but like yeah, she's just not quite as.
Yeah, there's not as much to her, but I still think she's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where it's like if like everything was terrible or like not like uplifting, then you could kind of get into the trappings of that.
I definitely like the arc that she has with Gwen, where Gwen kind of has to realize that she has to let her go.
Yeah. It's more of a Gwen arc than her arc.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see, is there anything else in particular? Oh, side note, this episode was directed by Alice Troughton, and yes, there is a relation. Oh, no, wait, no. Okay, never mind. I was wrong. There are people who have been on the show who are related to him, but she is not. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this episode is I don't think it's I mean, it's still good, and I can't really think of any major flaws other than the other than like maybe some parts of the Gwen subplot in the episode, but I don't think like overall I don't think it's just not quite as good as Random Shoes, but I'll still definitely give it a 9.5.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was again like really good. I wouldn't like maybe even great. I don't know if I just wasn't in the right mood. Everything was hitting me, but I don't think anything has surpassed. Was it last week? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it was
last week.
It was last week.
Yeah, I don't think anything has surpassed this for me. I'd probably still give it an 8. I feel like I've been giving a lot of those, but I would also say that like Series 3 and Series 4 of Doctor Who plus like the beginning of Torchwood is probably when Doctor Who is debatably at its most stable quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't really find a problem with that.
Overall, aside from the Capaldi years.
Yeah. Yeah, I would. There's definitely debate there, but I would agree with that. Yeah. So 8 out of 10.
Yeah. I'm gonna agree. Basically, nothing in the episode like really, really, really grabbed me. Like definitely the some of the arcs in the episode were really good. I liked the characters for the most part, and I thought it was a pretty good episode. But there was nothing really too engaging with the episode for me. So yeah, I'd say an 8 out of 10.
All right, yeah. Um, yeah, next week we will be discussing combat, um, which is, I'm just gonna say it right now. It's Weevil Fight Club, but its main claim to fame is the fact that it is written by Noel Clarke.
Nice.
But yeah, we'll be covering that next week. Until then, you can follow the podcast on Twitter at B2TARDISPod. You can support us on Patreon for a number of various perks, such as listening to us recording live, potentially guesting on the show, and getting access to episodes both bonus and regular early. And we're probably going to be recording another bonus episode in like a week or two. Maybe not. Not this week, not next week, because we have a two-parter, but maybe the week after that. And I'm having a brain moment. Oh, right. You can follow me on Twitter at WheatleyDL.
My name is Skylar. You can follow me on Twitter at skyhigh9_5.
And coming at you, it's your boy, the King Piss Drinker, Joey Salads, and you can follow me once again for the return at BigFatPenis69 on Twitter.com.
Yeah!
Woo!
A better return than Jack in Series 12.
Oop.
Yeah, and we'll see you all next week.